If you're an indoor cat owner, do you actually know which of your daily habits could be deadly for your cat? You keep them inside to protect them, and yes, that's the right choice. But here's what most people miss. Some of the deadliest threats to your cat aren't just outside. They're hiding in your everyday routines, in things you do without thinking twice. And most owners are making at least one of these mistakes right now, without even realizing it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which habits are quietly putting your cat at risk, and more importantly, exactly how to fix every single one of them. Let's start with the one that could be sitting on your kitchen counter right now. 1. Toxic plants and flowers hiding in plain sight. Did you know some of the most common houseplants in the world could send your cat into organ failure? Let's start with the worst offender, lilies, that beautiful bouquet sitting on your kitchen counter. For cats, true lilies are so toxic, they don't even need to chew a leaf. Drinking the vase water or licking pollen off their coat while grooming can trigger fatal kidney failure. The EFTA and Pet Poison Helpline warn that every part of the plant is dangerous, and by the time symptoms show, like vomiting, lethargy, and loss of appetite, the kidneys may already be shutting down. What makes lilies so uniquely terrifying is the timeline. A dog that eats something toxic often has hours or even days before things turn critical. A cat that ingests lily pollen can be an irreversible kidney failure within 24 to 72 hours, and once creatinine levels spike, even aggressive IV fluid therapy at an emergency vet often isn't enough to reverse the damage. But lilies are just the famous one. Pothos, that trailing vine in half the homes on the planet, burns your cat's mouth and throat with microscopic crystals. Aloe vera, the plant you keep for your skin, causes vomiting and tremors in cats. Sago palms can cause liver failure, and even a small amount of the seed can be fatal. Even tulips and azaleas make the list. Daffodil bulbs, if dug up from a pot, can cause severe gastrointestinal bleeding. Oleander, popular in warmer climates, is so toxic that a single leaf can affect a cat's heart rhythm. The Asperger's Toxic Plant Database counts over 400 plants dangerous to cats, and odds are at least one of them is in your home right now. Here's something else most owners never think about. Cut flowers from the grocery store are almost never labelled. That $5 bouquet at checkout might contain lilies mixed in with the roses, and nobody warns you at the register. If you receive a bouquet as a gift, don't assume the giver checked. Take 2 seconds to look for star-shaped white or orange flowers, because that's often enough to identify a lily before it ever reaches a vase. The good news? This mistake is one of the easiest in this video to fix. Before you buy your next plant, take 2 minutes to check the Asperger's Toxic Plant Database. I'll leave the link in the description below in case you're curious. It's free, and it might be the cheapest life insurance your cat will ever have. If you already own toxic plants, you don't necessarily have to throw them out. Just relocate them somewhere your cat physically cannot reach, a high shelf behind a closed door, or better yet, replace them with cat-safe alternatives like spider plants, Boston ferns, or cat grass, which actually gives your cat something safe to chew on instead. But not every mistake is this easy to spot. The most dangerous one of all is still coming, and it's the one almost nobody recognizes as a mistake. We'll get there at the end of this video. 2. Leaving windows and balconies unsecured. Have you ever heard that cats always land on their feet? That little myth sends thousands of cats to emergency rooms every single year. Veterinarians even have a name for it: high-rise syndrome. And here's the part that surprises most people. Your indoor cat is actually in more danger near an open window than an outdoor cat, because they have zero experience judging heights. And their hunting instinct doesn't care how high up they are. A bird lands on the railing, a moth flutters past the screen, and in that split second, your cat's brain sees prey, not a 5-story drop. This isn't rare, either. A famous study from the Animal Medical Center in New York looked at 132 cats that fell from high-rise buildings, and while most survived with treatment, the injuries were brutal. Shattered jaws, broken legs, collapsed lungs, and it spikes every spring and summer, the exact moment we all start opening windows for fresh air. There's also a strange twist to this data that vets call the paradox of the fall. Cats that fall from lower floors, say 2 or 3 stories, tend to have worse injuries than cats that fall from much higher up, like 7 stories or more. The theory is that a cat needs a few seconds mid-air to right itself, spread its body out like a flying squirrel, and relax before impact. A short fall doesn't give them enough time to do that, so don't assume a first-floor window is automatically safer. It often isn't. Even worse, many owners trust window screens to hold, but a loose or old screen can pop out with one solid push from a determined cat, and screens degrade over years of sun exposure without anyone noticing until it's too late. Balconies bring their own version of this risk. Even a balcony with railings isn't safe, because cats don't need to fall between the bars. They'll climb up and over the top if something outside catches their attention. The fix costs almost nothing. Check that every screen is actually secured, not just sitting in the frame, and give it a firm push test from the inside once a season. If you have a balcony, never let your cat out there unsupervised, or install cat netting if you want to give them safe access, sometimes called a catio, when it's a fully enclosed setup. One afternoon of cat proofing buys you years of open windows without that quiet fear in the back of your mind. And hey, if this is making you rethink a few things in your home, hit like and subscribe so we can share it with more cat lovers who'd want to catch these mistakes before it's too late. 3. String, ribbon, and hair ties left out. What if I told you the most dangerous toy in your house is probably the one your cat loves the most? String, ribbon, yarn, hair ties, shoelaces, even dental floss pulled from the trash. To your cat, these are irresistible. To a veterinary surgeon, they're called linear foreign bodies, and they're some of the most feared objects a cat can swallow. Here's why. When a cat swallows something long and thin, one end often gets anchored, sometimes under the tongue, sometimes in the stomach. Then the intestines do what they always do. They keep pushing. But the string can't move, so instead, the gut bunches up around it like fabric on a drawstring. And with every contraction, that string slowly saws through the intestinal wall from the inside. Once it perforates, bacteria leak into the abdomen, and without emergency surgery, it turns fatal fast. And cats are uniquely vulnerable to this. Their tongues are covered in backward-facing barbs, the same ones that make their grooming so effective. Once a string catches on those barbs, your cat physically can't spit it out. Their own anatomy forces them to keep swallowing. It was never a choice, and it explains why this happens even to cats that seem calm and cautious in every other way. Christmas and craft season make this dramatically worse. Tinsel, ribbon on wrapped gifts, and embroidery thread left out during a hobby project all become fair game the moment your back is turned, and vets report a real spike in linear foreign body surgeries every December and January. Rubber bands and hair ties deserve a special mention too, because they're small enough to disappear completely, and a cat can swallow one in seconds while you're brushing your hair at the sink. The fix is simple awareness. Hair ties go in a drawer, not the nightstand. Yarn and ribbon get packed away after use. Wand toys get stored out of reach between play sessions, because those strings are just as dangerous unsupervised, and honestly any string-based toy should only come out during supervised playtime. Never left on the floor overnight. One important warning. If you ever see string hanging from your cat's mouth, or from under their tail, never pull it. You could cause the exact damage we just talked about. Call your vet immediately instead, and try to keep your cat as calm and still as possible on the way there. 4. The water bowl mistake. Be honest with me for a second. Is your cat's water bowl sitting right next to their food bowl? If it is, you're making one of the most common mistakes in this entire video, and almost nobody knows it's a mistake at all. Here's the thing about cats. They descended from desert animals, and they inherited an incredibly low thirst drive. Your cat can be quietly dehydrated for years, and never once act thirsty. And chronic dehydration is one of the silent forces behind two of the biggest killers of indoor cats: kidney disease and urinary blockages. Now, why does the bowl placement matter? In the wild, cats instinctively avoid drinking near their kill, because water close to food could be contaminated. That instinct never left. Many cats drink less, simply because the water sits inches from their dinner, and still water itself is part of the problem. Cats are wired to trust moving water, which their instincts read as fresh. It's why your cat ignores a full bowl, but comes running when you turn on the faucet. Research on feline drinking behaviour has found that many cats show a clear preference for water fountains, and hydration matters so much that veterinary studies have linked increased water intake to fewer crystals in the urine. And if your cat eats mostly dry food, this multiplies. A mouse, which is what a cat would naturally eat, is about 70% water. Dry kibble sits around 10%. So your cat is losing the moisture nature built into their meals while barely feeling the urge to make up the difference. There's a second layer to this most owners never consider: bowl material and shape. Whisker fatigue is a real documented sensitivity, where a cat's whiskers brush against the sides of a narrow, deep bowl every time they drink. And some cats will actually avoid a bowl entirely rather than tolerate that repeated pressure. A wide, shallow dish solves this instantly. Multi-cat households add another wrinkle too. Some cats simply won't share a water source with another cat, especially if there's any tension in the household, so a single bowl in a single location might mean one of your cats is barely drinking at all. The fix: move the water away from the food. Spread 2 or 3 water stations around the home instead of just one. Try a fountain, and consider adding wet food to their routine. Small changes, but they protect the organs that fail most often in cats. 5. Skipping the litter box maintenance. Here's a mistake that seems purely about smell, but it's actually about survival. How often are you really scooping that litter box? Once a day? Once every couple of days? Cats are meticulously clean animals, and a dirty box doesn't just offend them, it changes their behaviour in ways that can quietly become a medical emergency. When a litter box gets too soiled, many cats start holding their urine rather than use it, and some redirect that instinct entirely, urinating on bath mats, laundry piles, or bedding instead. Owners often read this as spite or a behaviour problem, but it's frequently the cat's only way of avoiding an unpleasant box. The real danger is in male cats specifically, because their urethra is narrower, and holding urine or straining due to litter box avoidance raises the risk of a urinary blockage, which can become fatal within 24 to 48 hours if untreated. If you ever see your cat straining in the box, going in and out repeatedly, or crying while urinating, that's an emergency, not a behaviour issue, and it needs a vet the same day. There's also a numbers rule most owners have never heard: the 1+1 guideline. You should have 1 litter box per cat in the home, plus 1 extra. So a 2-cat household should really have 3 boxes, not 2. Cats are also surprisingly particular about box style. Covered boxes trap odour inside, which is unpleasant from a cat's far more sensitive nose. And boxes tucked into a small closet with a curtain can make a cat feel cornered with no visible exit if something startles them mid-use. The fix: scoop at least once a day, do a full litter change and wash the box weekly, and place boxes in quiet, low-traffic spots with an open sightline, never right next to the food and water we just talked about. 6. Assuming indoor means no parasite risk. This one surprises almost every owner. If your cat never goes outside, why would they need flea or worm prevention? Here's the uncomfortable truth: you go outside every day, and you're the delivery system. Flea eggs hitch a ride on your shoes, your pant cuffs and grocery bags. Mosquitoes that carry heartworm larvae get into the house through a torn screen or an open door for 30 seconds. Even a single mouse or lizard that wanders in from the garage can bring a full parasite life cycle with it. Heartworm disease deserves special attention here because it's often misunderstood. In cats, unlike dogs, there's no approved treatment to kill adult heartworms once infected. Prevention is the only real option, and even a single worm can be fatal to a cat because of their smaller heart and lungs. Fleas bring their own secondary danger too. A cat that grooms away fleas can accidentally ingest tapeworm segments carried by those fleas, leading to a whole new infestation internally. The fix isn't complicated. Ask your vet about year-round preventive treatment even for a fully indoor cat. And don't assume last year's flea collar or one-time treatment is still doing its job. Most preventives are monthly for a reason. 7. Overfeeding out of love. So what is the most dangerous mistake of all? The one that doesn't look like a mistake. Look at your cat right now. If they're anything like most indoor cats, the answer is already sitting in front of you. It's the extra scoop of kibble, the treats every time they meow, the full bowl that never goes empty, because a full bowl feels like a loved cat. This is the mistake that looks like love, and it's quietly shortening more feline lives than almost anything else in this video. The numbers are hard to ignore. The Association for Pet Obesity Prevention has found that roughly 6 in 10 cats in the United States are overweight or obese. That's the majority, which means statistically the overfed cat isn't the exception. WOMA. It's the default. And the consequences stack up silently. Diabetes, arthritis that turns a climbing, jumping athlete into a cat that just watches, heart strain, and a shorter lifespan overall. But here's the part most owners have never heard, and it's the scariest one. An overweight cat that suddenly stops eating because of stress, illness, or even a food change can develop hepatic lipidosis, also called fatty liver disease. The body floods the liver with stored fat faster than it can process, and the liver begins to fail. It can turn deadly in a matter of days, and overweight cats are the ones most at risk. There's an added trap in how most people portion food, eyeballing a scoop instead of actually weighing it. A scoop that looks the same every day can vary by 20 or 30%, depending on how tightly it's packed, and that small daily overshoot compounds silently over months. Free feeding, leaving a bowl out all day, makes this even worse, because it removes any real sense of how much your cat is actually eating, versus just grazing out of boredom. And the deepest part of this mistake, your cat doesn't experience food as love. That's our language, not theirs. What your cat actually craves from you is play, attention, and moments of connection. When they meow at you, food is just the answer that works fastest. So measure their meals with an actual kitchen scale rather than a scoop. Use those hunting-style puzzle feeders that make food feel earned, and when they cry for attention, try 5 minutes of play before reaching for the treats. Because the goal was never a shorter, fuller life. It was more years of them beside you. If even one of these 7 mistakes described something happening in your own home right now, that's not a reason to feel guilty. It's the reason you clicked on this video in the first place. Every single one of these has a fix that costs little to nothing. A little awareness, a small change in habit, and years added back to the life of the cat sitting somewhere in your house right now. If this helped you catch something you didn't know before, hit like, subscribe, and share it with another cat owner who needs to hear it too, because the next mistake you catch might be the one that saves a life.